more often than other sports.
I believe that steroids are so closely associated with bodybuilding because the people in the general public see such large human beings, physique, that they think that it's totally impossible to get that type of physique without the use of steroids.
But one of the main reasons is because a bodybuilder looks like so much more different than any other athlete. They develop their body to the utmost, and to the general public, they look freaky. The only way that they can look like this is by taking some type of drug. But it's not that. It's the hard work and the discipline that a bodybuilder takes to look like that.
Well, I think it dominates the bodybuilding field basically because bodybuilders, more or less, we look the type as taking steroids, although I have to say that I don't think bodybuilders are the main abusers of steroids. You have to look at football players, you have to look at other athletes such as the Olympic track athletes. These guys abuse steroids probably more so than bodybuilders do, but they bring this issue up about bodybuilders and steroids basically because they want to put bodybuilding into the Olympics. And in order to get bodybuilding into the Olympics, you have to have a clean sport. That means bodybuilders who don't use steroids at all. They're getting into the testing of steroids. They're monitoring the bodybuilders for steroids. So I think this is why the issue is brought up a lot more. They want to give the sport a cleaner look to get not only bodybuilders interested in it, but I think the general public interested more in bodybuilding. So once they eliminate the steroid issue, they'll feel that the general public will get a lot more interested in bodybuilding and feel it's not such a freak sport that bodybuilders just use steroids and people who are just getting into shape use steroids. So I think there's a lot of controversy to that, but I really think they should put a little more emphasis on steroid abuse in the other sports and not just concentrate on bodybuilding.
I think the problem there is because bodybuilders visually look so extraordinary. With the football players and hockey players or whatever, it's not so much visual, but except just in a performance of their sport. But with bodybuilders, they don't realize what we have to go through to get into that type of conditioning, the rest, the training, the diet, and so forth, and they just associate it with steroids because it's such a freaky look of a whole bunch of things put together that we have to go through in order to look that way.
I think the steroid thing with bodybuilding is quite overplayed. It's involved in all sports, but I think bodybuilding gets tagged with it because you know, we guys are a bit bigger than most people and look slightly different than most people. So, you know, the general public thinks that, oh, geez, it's all synthetic hormones and fake muscle. And they don't realize how much hard work and dedication and diet and how very little amounts of steroids are actually used. And 90% of the time when they are used, they're under a doctor's supervision. So I don't think anything is abused in this sport.
I think that's changing a little bit because people know more about good health, they know more about training, they know about good diet, so they know what big change that can do. And I really hope that more and more of the general public would know about the sport and would realize that all the top bodybuilders and all the people who just train in the gym really work hard to get that look. And it's there for everyone to achieve, and you don't need to use drugs to get it.
I really do believe that that problem is the fault of the people that are in charge of promoting bodybuilding. If you tell people not to think of a purple horse, the first thing they're going to do is think of a purple horse. You cannot constantly bring up the subject of steroids in relationship to bodybuilding and expect the general public not to relate steroids to bodybuilding. So I think in a way it's the fault of the magazines, the fault of the officials of the IFBB. If you pick up a magazine and you have on the front cover steroid-free bodybuilding or how to beat the drug test or something like that, then people are naturally going to relate that bodybuilders are only bodybuilders because of steroid use. So I think that we have to be much more responsible in reporting on and in speaking of the positive aspects of the sport rather than how to clean up the sport. Let's talk about how to better train our bodies, or not ignore the issue, but it shouldn't be brought up probably as much as it is. I think it's a worn out issue, and sports of all types have a problem with steroids. So I think it would be better to do your house cleaning on the inside without making it a big publicity deal that bodybuilding is cleaning up its image. I think it would be better done quietly. The negative aspects of anything shouldn't be brought out all that much.
instead of the media making it look like, well, these guys just do steroids to look like that. I've been in the gym for 14 years, half of my life. I'm 27 years old. Steroids did not make my Quinn. Whether we are experimenting with them or not, that's our decision. But we are doing it under doctor's care, and everything is blown out of proportion. I think the thing with the Olympics, you know, maybe it was bad for Ben Johnson, but I think it was very positive for the bodybuilding world, because now it's taking some pressure off of us. I think, you know, now people looking and saying, oh, maybe it's not just bodybuilders who are abusing it. But unfortunately, the media was using us as a stereotype. When people hear the word steroids, they're associated with bodybuilders. I think it's time for them to start treating us as athletes. You know, my whole life, I've been an athlete. If you come spend a week with me, you'll find I'm a very intense guy. You know, I can do anything any other athlete can do. So why are they still considering this an art form, to me, is ridiculous. You know, to watch a guy get under a bar and squat 500 pounds for 15 repetitions, you know, to me, I think is very athletic.
Well, actually, I think it's a cop-out. I think that, you know, steroids are very overrated, and I feel like it's this cop-out for the people that don't want to work as hard as a lot of the professional bodybuilders do. You know, if steroids were so great, why isn't there 100 Arnold Schwarzeneggers or, you know, 100 Corey Eversons? I just think they're completely overrated.
A lot of people still say something about steroids. Bodybuilding takes steroids, and I would say I don't take it. I don't need it. I tell you that for me at first it was a hobby, and now it's a job. And a job, I like to do it years, more years, more years. When I would take steroids, it's unhealthy, and I couldn't do it longer and longer, but it's my future bodybuilding, and I don't take steroids. I like to do it my whole life.
Most people think that we build our bodies strictly on anabolic steroids, but that's the biggest misconception that people can ever think of. In other sports, you know, what they see is what they've seen for years, you know, as far as in baseball, basketball, football. You know, they've watched the sports from junior high school, college ball, and so steroids never came into play. But when you see a physique on stage, and it's much different from anybody else's physique, you know, like another type of athlete, you know, you figure it takes a little bit more than just sheer diet, you know, training hard, and all the other things it takes, you know, other than steroids in order to build a physique. So I think that's the reason why things are the way they are when it comes to the steroid issue.
The whole steroid issue started a few years ago with a lot of media hype. And as such, I think that the public has caught on to it because we're so outwardly muscular. We carry our sport around with us. And as such, we're an easy target for those that like to, you know, tear down athletic endeavors and say that all they are is based on ergogenics or anabolic usage. But this is not the case.